Katie watched in horror as federal agents swarmed their home at 6 a.m., badges flashing, search warrants thrust in Taemin's face. Taemin Park, you're under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, and operating a criminal enterprise. The lead agent announced coldly while Junho cried in Katie's arms, terrified by the strangers tearing apart their home. Everything they'd built, every peaceful moment of the last 3 months, shattered like glass as handcuffs clicked around Taemin's wrists. "Katie, call Yuna," he shouted as they dragged him away. "Don't trust anyone else, not the lawyers, not the police, only Yuna." Katie stood frozen in her destroyed living room, her son sobbing against her chest, watching the man she loved being shoved into a police car. Then her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I warned you that you'd need protecting. The wolf's enemies don't forgive, and Diana's revenge has only just begun. Your husband will be convicted and spend 20 years in prison unless you do exactly what I say. Meet me at the old warehouse in 1 hour. Come alone, bring Junho, and don't tell anyone, not even my daughter Yuna. Time to choose, Katie, your pride or your family's survival." The wolf. Everything just fell apart in the worst way possible. If you're ready for the most intense finale ever, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Hit that like button if your heart is racing. This is where everything comes together. Let's go. Katie's hands trembled as she tried calling Yuna, but the call wouldn't connect. Every attempt went straight to a number unavailable message that made her stomach drop. Someone had cut off their allies, isolated them completely, and she knew with sickening certainty that this was all planned with precision. The federal agents had left her home in ruins, and Junho wouldn't stop crying, asking over and over, "Why did they take Daddy? Is Daddy a bad man?" Katie held him close, fighting back her own tears as she tried to explain something she didn't understand herself. Within 20 minutes, news vans appeared outside their house, cameras pointing at their windows, reporters shouting questions about the secret criminal empire Taemin had allegedly been running. Katie's phone exploded with calls from blocked numbers, from former friends, from people she barely knew, all wanting gossip, all abandoning them the moment scandal hit. She felt more alone than she'd ever felt, even more than when she'd fled Seoul 4 years ago, because at least then she'd had hope. Now she had nothing but a terrified child and an impossible choice. The wolf's message burned in her mind. 1 hour to decide whether to trust the man who'd terrorized them or watch Taemin rot in prison for crimes she desperately wanted to believe he hadn't committed. Katie looked at the evidence the federal agents had seized, files, computers, records that Taemin had kept from his father's old organization. Things he'd told her were for protection, to prove he wasn't involved if questions ever arose. But what if Diana had somehow twisted that evidence? What if she'd planted false documents that made Taemin look guilty? Katie's mind raced through impossible scenarios until Junho tugged her sleeve. "Mommy, the mean grandpa said he'd protect us. Maybe we should go see him." Out of the mouths of babes, Katie thought bitterly. Her 3-year-old son was suggesting they trust a crime lord because everyone else had abandoned them. She looked at the clock, 45 minutes left to decide. She thought about calling the police, about telling someone where she was going, but the wolf's warning echoed. Don't tell anyone. If she broke that rule and something happened to Taemin in custody, she'd never forgive herself. Katie made the hardest decision of her life. She grabbed Junho, threw essentials in a bag, and headed for the warehouse, praying she wasn't walking her son straight into danger. Katie is about to walk into the wolf's territory with no backup and no plan. But someone has been tracking her phone, and they're racing to stop her before it's too late. Katie pulled up to the warehouse with Junho clutching his stuffed elephant, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her chest. The wolf stood in the entrance, looking older and more tired than she'd ever seen him. And for the first time, she noticed the liver spots on his hands, the slight tremor when he moved. He was just a man, a dangerous, complicated man, but still mortal and aging. "You came," he said, genuine relief crossing his weathered face. "Smart girl. If you'd gone to the police or called anyone, they would have intercepted you. Diana has people everywhere now. In the police department, the federal prosecutor's office, even in Yuna's organization." Katie's blood ran cold. "Yuna? What did you do to her?" The wolf's expression darkened. "Nothing. But Diana did. Your sister-in-law was grabbed 3 hours ago by Diana's people. She's being held as insurance to make sure you and Taemin cooperate with the frame-up." He gestured for Katie to follow him inside, where he'd set up a command center with screens showing surveillance footage and documents spread across tables. Let me show you who really orchestrated your husband's arrest, the wolf said, pulling up security footage from the federal prosecutor's office. Katie gasped as she watched a familiar figure entering through a side door late at night. Mr. Choi, the man they'd trusted, the man who'd supposedly helped them bring down the wolf's organization. Choi has been working for Diana from the beginning, the wolf explained bitterly. He wasn't investigating me for the government. He was gathering intelligence for her while pretending to be everyone's ally. The evidence he collected on me? He gave it all to Diana. The case against your husband? Choi built it using real documents from my old organization, but he framed the timeline to make it look like Taemin was an active participant, not a son trying to escape his father's shadow. Katie felt sick, remembering how she'd trusted Choi, how he'd seemed like their savior. But why? She whispered. What does Diana want? The wolf's next words changed everything. She wants what I took from her 20 years ago, not just revenge, but my grandson. Diana's daughter died 5 years ago in a car accident. She has no heirs, no legacy. When she learned about Junho, she didn't just see leverage, she saw a replacement for everything she lost. She's going to destroy both you and Taemin legally, take custody of Junho as his only suitable guardian through her connections, and raise him as her own heir to both our empires. Diana's plan is more twisted than anyone imagined. She wants to steal Junho and raise him as her own. But the wolf has a counterplan that will require Katie to do the unthinkable. Katie's world tilted sideways as the wolf's words sank in. Diana wanted to take Junho, to steal her baby and turn him into something dark and twisted. She looked down at her son playing innocently with toy cars the wolf had provided, completely unaware that a monster was trying to claim him. Over my dead body, Katie said, her voice shaking with maternal fury. I'll fight her in every court, I'll run away again, I'll do whatever it takes, she will never touch my son. The wolf nodded approvingly, something almost like respect flickering in his cold eyes. That's exactly the fire I need from you. Because what I'm about to propose will require you to be stronger and braver than you've ever been. He pulled out a chair, gesturing for Katie to sit. Diana has built her case perfectly through legal channels. She's untouchable by conventional means. But she has one weakness, her pride. She thinks she's won, thinks she's outsmarted everyone. We're going to use that arrogance against her. The wolf laid out his plan, and with each word, Katie's horror grew. You're going to publicly turn against Taemin. You're going to file for divorce, claim you were deceived by him, take Junho and appear to flee back to America in disgrace. Diana will intercept you. I'll make sure of it, and you're going to let her think she's convinced you to work with her. Katie shot to her feet. You want me to pretend to betray my husband and hand my son over to that woman? Are you insane? The wolf's voice remained calm. You won't be handing Junho over. You'll be wearing a wire, gathering evidence of her conspiracy, her admission of framing Taemin, everything we need to destroy her legally. And I'll have my people tracking you every second, ready to extract you the moment we have what we need. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. This is the only way, Katie. Diana won't confess to the police or federal agents. They're already in her pocket. But she'll brag to you, the broken woman she's defeated, because villains always need to gloat. 3 days. Give me 3 days of playing her game, and I'll give you back your husband, your freedom, and your family's safety forever. Katie looked at Junho, then at the monster offering to save them, and realized she was about to make a deal with the devil himself. Katie must become an actress in the most dangerous performance of her life. But someone close to them has discovered where she is, and they're about to complicate everything. Before Katie could respond to the wolf's plan, the warehouse door exploded open, and Yuna burst in, bloodied, furious, and pointing a gun directly at her father's head. Step away from her, old man, Yuna snarled, her elegant clothes torn, a cut across her cheek still bleeding. I escaped Diana's people 20 minutes ago, tracked Katie's phone, and I swear to God if you've hurt her or my nephew, I'll finish what I should have done years ago. The wolf didn't even flinch, just sighed like a tired parent dealing with a rebellious teenager. Lower the gun, daughter. I'm trying to save them, not hurt them. Yuna laughed bitterly, moving closer to Katie and Junho protectively. Save them? You don't save people. You use them, manipulate them, and destroy them when they're no longer useful. Katie, grab Junho and get behind me. We're leaving right now. But Katie surprised everyone, including herself, by stepping forward and gently pushing Yuna's gun toward the ground. Wait. Just wait and hear what he has to say. The betrayal on Yuna's face cut deep as she stared at Katie like she'd lost her mind. Are you seriously trusting him? After everything he's done? After he threatened you? After he tried to take Junho? Katie's voice was steady despite her shaking hands. I don't trust him, Yuna. But right now, he's the only one with a plan to save Taemin and stop Diana. She has people in the police, the prosecutor's office. She even had Mr. Choi working for her from the beginning. We can't fight her through normal channels. Yuna's gun slowly lowered as she processed this information, her sharp mind already calculating. Choi was dirty? That snake. I knew something felt off about him. She turned to her father, and the hatred in her eyes was matched only by the desperate love for her brother. Fine. I'll hear your plan. But if this is another manipulation, if you're using Katie and Junho as pawns in some game, I'll kill you myself, father or not. The wolf actually smiled, genuine warmth breaking through his cold exterior. That's my daughter, suspicious, fierce, and absolutely right to threaten me. Now sit down, both of you, because we have 72 hours to destroy Diana Volkov, save my son, and somehow convince the federal government that they've arrested an innocent man. And Katie, what I'm about to ask you to do will require acting skills you didn't know you had and courage that terrifies even me. The unlikely alliance is formed, but the plan is more dangerous than Katie imagined. As she prepares to face Diana, Taemin is discovering something horrifying in prison. Diana's reach extends even behind bars. In a federal holding cell across the city, Taemin sat with his head in his hands, trying to process how his life had fallen apart in hours. His lawyer, a stranger appointed by the court because his own attorney had mysteriously withdrawn, had just left after delivering devastating news. The evidence against him was overwhelming, bail was denied, and he was looking at 20 years minimum if convicted. But what terrified Taemin most was the guard who'd whispered to him during the cell check. Diana Volkov sends her regards. Your wife and son will be well taken care of once you're gone. The threat was clear. Diana had people inside the prison, and Taemin was completely vulnerable. A fight broke out in the common area during dinner, and in the chaos, 2 inmates grabbed Taemin, dragging him toward the showers where cameras conveniently had blind spots. Nothing personal, one of them muttered. Just business. The Russian lady pays well. Taemin fought desperately, but he was outnumbered, exhausted, and they had weapons, sharpened plastic that could kill just as easily as steel. Just as the blade was about to strike, the prison alarm blared, and guards flooded the area with a speed that seemed almost supernatural. The inmates scattered, and Taemin collapsed against the wall, breathing hard, realizing he'd come within seconds of death. Later, back in his cell, a different guard slipped him a burner phone through the food slot. You have 2 minutes, the guard said quietly. Compliments of the wolf. Taemin's hands shook as he dialed Katie's number, and when she answered, her voice was the most beautiful sound he'd ever heard. Taemin. Oh my God, are you okay? I heard there was an incident. Katie, listen to me carefully, he interrupted, his voice urgent and raw. Diana has people in here trying to kill me. I won't survive 3 days, let alone a trial. Whatever plan my father has, whatever you're doing, it needs to happen now. He could hear her crying on the other end, and it broke his heart. I love you. I love Junho. And if something happens to me, promise me you'll take our son and run as far as you can. Don't try to fight Diana, just survive. Katie's voice came back fierce through her tears. Nothing is going to happen to you. Your father, Yuna, and I have a plan, and in 72 hours you're going to walk free. I promise you, Taemin. I'm going to save you the way you've saved me. The line went dead as the 2 minutes expired, and Taemin sat in his cell, clinging to his wife's promise like a lifeline in the darkness. Taemin's life hangs by a thread while Katie prepares for the most dangerous performance of her life. The plan begins tomorrow, and one wrong move could destroy everything. Katie stood outside the federal courthouse the next morning, photographers and reporters swarming like vultures as she clutched a tearful Junho and read from a prepared statement that tasted like poison on her tongue. I trusted Taemin Park completely. I believed he was a legitimate businessman trying to escape his father's criminal legacy. I was wrong, and I was a fool. Her voice cracked convincingly. It wasn't hard to sound devastated when she was actually terrified. For the safety of my son, I'm filing for divorce and returning to America immediately. I want nothing to do with the Park family or their blood money. The cameras flashed relentlessly as she pushed through the crowd toward a waiting car, and she knew Diana was watching somewhere, seeing exactly what the wolf wanted her to see. A broken woman, defeated and alone. What the cameras didn't catch was the tiny wire taped under Katie's clothes, or the tracker sewn into Junho's stuffed elephant. The performance had begun, and there was no turning back now. Katie had barely reached her hotel, deliberately chosen for being low budget and vulnerable, when her phone rang from an unknown number. Mrs. Park, or should I say Ms. Mitchell now that you're divorcing? Diana's smooth, accented voice sent chills down Katie's spine. That was quite a performance at the courthouse. Very convincing. I almost believed you. Katie forced steel into her voice, channeling every ounce of anger and betrayal she'd ever felt. It wasn't a performance. I married a liar, and my son almost got caught in the crossfire of his family's criminal empire. I'm done. Diana laughed, a sound like silken razors. Of course you are. Which is why I'd like to meet with you, woman to woman, mother to mother. I have a proposition that could benefit us both. Financial security for you, safety for your son, and justice for the lies Taemin told you. Katie's heart hammered, but she kept her voice steady. I'm listening. Good, Diana purred. There's a cafe on 5th Street. Meet me there in 1 hour. Come alone, bring Junho. I'd love to meet the child at the center of all this drama. And Ms. Mitchell? Don't do anything foolish like involving the police. I'd hate for your cooperation with Taemin's father to become public knowledge. Yes, I know about your little meeting at the warehouse yesterday. I know everything. Diana knows about the wolf's involvement, but does she know about the wire? Katie is walking into the lion's den with her son, and one slip could be fatal. The cafe was elegant and private, with Diana sitting in a corner booth like a queen holding court, her platinum hair perfect, her smile warm and completely fake. When Katie approached with Junho's hand gripped tightly in hers, Diana's eyes softened in a way that made Katie's skin crawl. The woman was looking at her son like he was a prize to be won. Ms. Mitchell, thank you for coming. And this must be Junho, Diana said, her voice honey-sweet as she gestured to the empty seats. I ordered him hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. All children love marshmallows, don't they? Junho looked up at Katie uncertainly, and she nodded, letting him slide into the booth while every maternal instinct screamed at her to grab him and run. Diana watched them with calculating eyes, and Katie knew she was being evaluated, tested, sized up like prey. You're braver than I expected, Diana said quietly once Junho was distracted with his drink. Most women would have run screaming after what you've been through. But you're still here, still fighting. I respect that. Katie forced herself to meet Diana's gaze without flinching, remembering the wolf's coaching. Show strength, not weakness. Diana respects power, not victims. I'm here because I need to know the truth, Katie said, her voice hard. Did Taemin really run his father's criminal operations? Or was he set up? Because if he was innocent and you framed him, then you and I have a serious problem. Diana's eyebrows raised with genuine surprise. Then she laughed. A real laugh, not the fake pleasantries from before. Oh, you're delicious. No wonder Taemin fell so hard. Most people come to me begging, but you come demanding answers. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The truth? Taemin was innocent, mostly. He inherited his father's empire and tried to wash it clean. But you can't ever fully escape that kind of blood. So yes, I enhanced the evidence, paid Mr. Choi to build a narrative that would stick, and ensured the federal prosecutor saw exactly what I wanted him to see. Katie's heart soared. Diana was confessing. The wire was catching everything, but she kept her face neutral. Why? What did Taemin ever do to you? Diana's expression darkened, genuine pain flickering across her perfect features. He did nothing. But his father took everything from me, my brother, my family's honor, millions of dollars. And when I finally had the wolf cornered at that warehouse, he escaped like smoke. So I adapted. If I can't destroy the father, I'll destroy the son and take what matters most to him, his legacy. Her eyes drifted to Junho with an intensity that made Katie's blood run cold. That beautiful boy is the future of two powerful empires, and I'm going to raise him to be greater than both his grandfather and his father ever were. Diana has confessed everything, but now she's making her real move. And it involves taking Junho permanently. Katie must think fast as the wolf's plan enters its most dangerous phase. Diana signaled to someone outside, and two large men entered the cafe, positioning themselves near the exits, not threatening, but unmistakably blocking any escape route. Katie's hand instinctively reached for Junho, pulling him closer, and Diana noticed with an approving smile. Relax, Ms. Mitchell. I'm not kidnapping anyone yet. I'm making you an offer that actually benefits everyone involved. She slid a folder across the table, and Katie opened it with trembling fingers to find legal documents. Divorce papers already filled out, custody agreements giving Diana guardianship of Junho, and a bank statement showing an account with $10 million. Here's what's going to happen, Diana said calmly, as if discussing a business transaction instead of destroying a family. You sign those papers right now. You give me legal custody of Junho, take the money, and disappear. Europe, South America, anywhere you want to start fresh. In exchange, I'll provide evidence that clears Taemin of the most serious charges. He'll still serve time, maybe 5 years instead of 20, but he'll survive and eventually rebuild his life. Katie stared at the papers, her vision blurring with tears. You're asking me to sell my son. Diana's expression hardened, the warm facade cracking to reveal the cold predator beneath. I'm offering you a choice that most mothers in your position don't get. Sign the papers, and Junho grows up in luxury with the best education, the best opportunities, becoming powerful beyond imagination. He'll know you loved him enough to give him that life. Refuse, and Taemin dies in prison. I have people there who will make it look like a gang killing. Then I'll use my legal connections to prove you're an unfit mother. No job, no stability, connected to criminal organizations through marriage. I'll get custody anyway, but you'll get nothing except the knowledge that your stubbornness killed your husband and cost you your son. Katie looked at Junho, who was playing with his elephant, humming a little song, completely innocent and unaware. Every fiber of her being screamed to fight, to refuse, but she remembered the wolf's words. Get her to say everything, get her confident, make her think she's won. Katie picked up the pen with shaking hands, and Diana's smile grew triumphant. Smart girl. Once you sign, Junho comes with me today. Clean break is best for everyone. You'll have your money by tonight, and can disappear by morning. Katie's hand hovered over the signature line, and she looked up at Diana with tears streaming down her face. Before I sign, I need to know one thing. Did you ever really help us at the warehouse, or was that part of the plan too? Diana leaned back, completely relaxed now that she thought victory was assured. Oh, that was real. I did want the wolf dead back then. But when he escaped and I lost that opportunity, I realized I could achieve something even better. Take his legacy, corrupt his grandson into my own heir, and make him watch from whatever hole he's hiding in as I turn his bloodline against everything he built. The ultimate revenge isn't death, it's perversion of everything someone loves. Diana has revealed her complete plan on tape, but she's demanding Katie sign away Junho right now. The wolf's people are in position, but can they move fast enough? Katie's hand trembled over the signature line, the pen hovering, her heart breaking into a million pieces as she looked at her innocent son one last time. Then she did something Diana never expected. She smiled, dropped the pen, and spoke clearly into the wire hidden under her clothes. Did you get all that? Every word. Diana's face transformed from triumph to shock to murderous rage in seconds as she realized she'd been played. The cafe's lights suddenly cut out, plunging everything into darkness, and Katie heard Diana scream. Kill her. Kill them both. But Katie had already grabbed Junho and dropped under the table, just as the wolf had trained her. Gunshots exploded through the air, glass shattering, people screaming, and Katie curled her body around her son, praying the wolf's people were as good as he'd promised. Within seconds that felt like hours, emergency lights flickered on, and Katie looked up to see Yuna standing over Diana with a gun pressed to the Russian woman's head, while the wolf's security team had disarmed Diana's guards with brutal efficiency. It's over, Diana. The wolf's voice echoed as he stepped out from the back room where he'd been listening to everything. Every word you said was recorded and transmitted live to 3 different federal agencies. The real ones, not the corrupt officials in your pocket. Your confession about framing my son, about conspiracy, about planned murder. It's all documented now. Diana's face was a mask of pure hatred as federal agents swarmed the cafe, but she locked eyes with Katie with a final chilling promise. You think you've won? I have lawyers, connections, money beyond your imagination. I'll be out in a year, and when I am, that boy will be mine. I'll haunt you for the rest of your life. Katie stood up slowly, still holding Junho, who was crying from fear, and she walked right up to Diana with a strength she didn't know she possessed. You're wrong. You already lost the moment you underestimated a mother's love. I walked into your trap. I let you think you'd beaten me, and I wore your arrogance like armor. You wanted to corrupt Junho? He'll never even remember your name. As federal agents handcuffed Diana and read her rights, Katie finally allowed herself to breathe, to believe that maybe, just maybe, they'd actually survived. The wolf approached quietly, his expression softer than she'd ever seen it. You did well, daughter-in-law. Better than I expected. My son chose wisely when he chose you. But before Katie could respond, Yuna's phone rang with news that made everyone freeze. Taemin's been stabbed in prison. He's in critical condition at the hospital. It's bad, you need to come now. They defeated Diana, but her revenge reached Taemin before they could save him. Now Katie must race to the hospital, praying she hasn't won the war only to lose the man she loves. Katie burst through the hospital doors with Junho in her arms, the wolf and Yuna running behind her, all of them desperate to reach Taemin before it was too late. A doctor intercepted them outside the ICU, his face grave and exhausted. Mrs. Park, your husband was stabbed 3 times, once in the abdomen, twice in the chest. We've operated for 4 hours, stopped the internal bleeding, but the next 24 hours are critical. He's lost a lot of blood, and his body is fighting hard. You can see him, but he's unconscious and may not wake for days, if at all. Katie felt her legs give out, but the wolf caught her, holding her steady with surprising gentleness. He's strong, the old man whispered, his own voice cracking with emotion. My son is a fighter. He'll come back to you. They let Katie into the ICU first, alone with Junho, and the sight of Taemin, pale as death, tubes everywhere, machines beeping steadily, made her want to scream. Junho started crying, reaching for his father. Daddy's sleeping, baby, Katie whispered through her tears. Daddy's just very, very tired and needs to rest. Katie spent the entire night at Taemin's bedside, holding his hand, whispering everything that had happened, how they'd caught Diana, how the charges against him were being dropped, how they were finally free. You have to wake up, she begged, pressing his hand to her tear-stained cheek. You have to come back to us. Junho needs his father. I need my husband. We didn't survive all of this just to lose you now. Hours passed with no response, just the steady beep of the heart monitor that was both reassuring and terrifying. The wolf stood outside the ICU window, watching his unconscious son with an expression of raw grief Katie had never thought him capable of feeling. Yuna stood beside her father, and for the first time in their lives they held hands, united in fear and love for Taemin. As dawn broke over the hospital, something miraculous happened. Taemin's fingers twitched in Katie's hand. Then his eyes fluttered open, unfocused and confused, but open. Katie, he whispered, his voice like sandpaper, and Katie sobbed with relief. I'm here. I'm right here, and you're going to be okay. Diana's arrested, the charges are dropped, and we're going home, baby. We're finally going home. Taemin's lips curved into the faintest smile before exhaustion pulled him back under. But this time it was healing sleep, not the darkness of near death. The doctor confirmed he was stabilizing, and Katie finally allowed herself to believe they'd made it through the nightmare. Taemin is alive and recovering, but the ordeal has changed them all forever. As they prepare to rebuild their lives, one final revelation will reshape their family in ways nobody expected. 3 weeks later, Taemin was finally released from the hospital, still weak but healing, with Katie never leaving his side and Junho chattering excitedly about bringing Daddy home. All charges had been officially dropped after Diana's recorded confession, and Mr. Choi had been arrested alongside her for conspiracy and corruption. The media that had destroyed them now wanted redemption stories, but Katie and Taemin refused all interviews. They just wanted peace, privacy, and time to heal as a family. What surprised everyone was the wolf's quiet presence through it all. He'd paid for the best doctors, arranged for security at the hospital, and had even bought toys for Junho, slowly trying to build a relationship with the grandson he'd threatened months before. On their first night home, there was a knock at the door, and Katie opened it to find the wolf standing there awkwardly, holding a wrapped present. May I come in? He asked, and something in his voice, vulnerable and uncertain, made Katie step aside. Taemin was resting on the couch when his father entered, and the tension between them was thick enough to cut. The wolf sat down carefully, keeping distance, respecting boundaries for perhaps the first time in his life. I came to say goodbye, he said quietly, and both Katie and Taemin looked shocked. The federal investigation into Diana uncovered too much about my past activities. I'm not going to prison. I made deals, provided information, but I can't stay in Seoul. I'm retiring, truly retiring this time, to a small island where I've bought a house. No empire, no power plays, just an old man living out his days. He looked at Taemin with eyes that glistened with unshed tears. I've been a terrible father. I chose power over love, fear over trust, and I nearly destroyed the best thing I ever created. You. I don't expect forgiveness, don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that watching you fight for your family, watching Katie's courage, watching that little boy's innocent love, it changed something in me that I thought died decades ago. The wolf pulled out legal documents and handed them to Taemin. Every legitimate business I own is now yours, transferred legally, cleanly, no strings attached. Build the empire you've always dreamed of, the one based on honor instead of fear. And maybe, if you're willing, let me visit once a year. Let me know my grandson. Let me try to be something better than the monster I've been. Taemin stared at the papers, then at his father, and slowly nodded. Once a year. On Junho's birthday. You come, you bring presents, you act like a normal grandfather, and if you ever threaten my family again, you'll kill me yourself, the wolf finished with a sad smile. I know. And I deserve it. The wolf is leaving, but his shadow has lifted from their lives forever. As Katie and Taemin rebuild, one final surprise awaits. A gift that will secure their future and test their hearts one last time. 6 months later, Katie stood in the doorway of Junho's new bedroom in their beautiful house. Not a mansion, just a warm, comfortable home filled with laughter and love. Watching Taemin read their son a bedtime story. The scars on Taemin's chest were fading, both the physical ones from the stabbing and the emotional ones from a lifetime under his father's shadow. They'd rebuilt Taemin's businesses legitimately, hired ethical people, and created something they were genuinely proud of. Yuna visited every week, finally having the brother-sister relationship she'd always wanted, and even sent photos to the wolf on his island, slowly building bridges that had been burned for decades. Life wasn't perfect, but it was theirs and it was real. As Katie watched her husband kiss Junho goodnight, her hand instinctively moved to her stomach where a secret was growing. A secret she'd only confirmed that morning. She was pregnant again, and this time there would be no running, no fear, no danger. Just love and family and the peaceful future they'd fought so hard to claim. Later that night, after Junho was asleep, Katie told Taemin about the baby, and his reaction was everything she'd dreamed. Tears of joy, gentle kisses, whispered promises of the father he'd be to both their children. We made it, he whispered against her hair. After everything, your disappearance, my father, Diana, prison, nearly dying, we actually made it to the other side. Katie smiled, thinking about the terrified girl who'd fled Seoul for years ago, and the strong woman she'd become. We made it because we never gave up on each other, even when giving up seemed like the only option. Her phone buzzed with a message, and when she opened it, she found a photo from the wolf on his island. Him sitting on a beach at sunset, looking more peaceful than she'd ever seen him, with a caption that simply read, "Thank you for saving my son. And for teaching an old wolf that family is the only empire worth building. See you on Junho's birthday. Grandfather." Katie showed Taemin, and they both smiled, realizing that sometimes the most broken people can find redemption, and the darkest stories can have happy endings. As they held each other that night, Katie thought about everything they'd survived. The lies, the danger, the heartbreak, and knew with absolute certainty that their love was stronger than any threat, any empire, any force in the world. They were finally truly home. Wow, what a journey! From Katie running away pregnant to facing the wolf, defeating Diana, and finally finding peace. This family fought through everything. Now it's your turn. Do you think the wolf truly changed, or will he eventually return to his old ways? Should Katie and Taemin let him be part of their children's lives, or is it too dangerous? And what do you think will happen when their new baby is born? Will it be a boy or girl? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and share it with everyone who loves epic K-drama romance. Subscribe for more emotional stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you for going on this incredible journey with Katie, Taemin, and their family. Until next time, remember, true love is worth fighting for, no matter how impossible it seems.